Hey yo, what's poppin', man? It's been a bit, but I'm back. Okay, yeah. So in this video, I'm basically going to be breaking down how I took this trade right here. I'm just going to show you guys on a lower time frame. So I'm going to break down how I took this trade. Again, guys, the main thing I want you to focus on is how I came to the conclusion of selling from this area. All right. So unfortunately, guys, I don't have a screenshot for you today, but I do have proof of execution still. Okay. So you can see that I've entered at 2050.58. All right. I have my stop loss at 2053.66, and I've taken my profit at 2044.55. Okay. So this is the closest I could get. I did not have time to screenshot my trade. It hit my TP. I set my TP. Boom, it's done. But yeah, anyway, as I said, I don't like to make breakdowns unless I have some kind of evidence that I actually took the trade. So here you go. All right. And I've dialed all of these numbers in right here. Okay. And this was the trade. So I sold it around here, and I'll tell you guys exactly why I sold it here and all of those things. Whenever it comes to lower time frames, you guys are having questions. You know I can't expose exactly what I do on the lower time frame. Some of you guys have been, as I said, experimenting with your own thing. That's great, that's good, but like I said, try to figure out. You can absolutely use your smart money concepts lower time frame confirmations, by the way. Just want to put that out there. It works well, surprisingly well. But focus on what I'm telling you in terms of how I got to this place right here. I'm going to literally walk you guys through every single bit of information, like every single point of a storyline change, where let's say you have a weekly bearish and then a daily bullish, all of these things, we're going to talk about it. Okay, so the first thing, what is our storyline, right? So 1 second. Yeah, okay, just give me a second. Just need to pause this. All right, my bad. Yeah, we're back. Okay, we're back. Great. So yeah, we're going to be covering every single thing. So first of all, the storyline. So we know that our monthly is still bullish. I was actually hoping for something interesting to happen, like January closing in as bearish, but that didn't happen, so that's fine. So monthly is bullish, guys. There isn't much to do with the monthly right now. I'm still trying to wait. I'm still playing on the weeklies and the dailies. But anyway, so let's figure out the weekly, right? So I took the sell over here, okay? And at this point in time, weekly was bearish. Okay, so the weekly bearish storyline started over here, but like I said, the storylines can create new ones every single time. Every single time there is a swing point being made, a new storyline has started from that area, right? What do we need a new storyline for? We need a new storyline to indicate to us that, okay, this swing point is probably going to hold, right? Until and unless a storyline has been created, we can't say for sure that the storyline or that the swing point is going to hold, right? Again, we can never know 100% for sure, but it's a good conclusion. All right, so weekly storyline started from here, bearish. All right, price comes down, taps into this area. There was no bullish sign whatsoever. It just didn't happen, I believe. Let's go and check the daily. Yeah, we did have a breakout. We did have a breakout actually, and then after that we had price run into the weekly. So we went from weekly to weekly. The storyline was finished. How do we know it was finished? Well, it gave us a sign. Price came in and did a weekly reject weekly of this open close. Daily did a breakout right here as a support. Price comes down and breaks it, and now we have a weekly bearish. And now the next thing we're waiting for is, okay, price is going to sell from this weekly to potentially this weekly. Now once price comes to this weekly support, we're going to wait for a weekly reject weekly and a daily breakout. Right, we will wait for this breakout to happen. So my entry was right before that has happened. My entry is still before this had been broken out. Okay, so at this point in time, you have to understand the weekly storyline is bearish. All right, so now the only thing that we have to really figure out is the daily. That's the only other thing. Now that we know our storyline is weekly bearish, correct? So we have a weekly bearish storyline. We know that we're supposed to be looking for sell setups from the daily, and if there is a daily that is also in line with the weekly resistance, we're gonna prefer and prioritize those dailies over the others, because there may be 5 different dailies, but let's say 2 of those 5 are in line with a weekly. Then we're gonna prioritize those 2. Okay, so let's take a look at the dailies that were produced, right? So first of all, what was the storyline, right? We have ourselves a weekly reject weekly, fantastic, and then we have a daily breakout right here. Again, guys, if you haven't watched my storyline video, don't ask me questions about it in this video. Go ahead back there and watch the video. This video is for people who already understand the storyline. Okay, so we have our daily breakout. So what were the dailies that were produced? Well, we have 1, 2, so this is a traditional resistance. 2 is an open close, 3 is a left shoulder, and then we have these other ones that are way lower that I wouldn't really consider too much. Okay, if we were to look at the equilibrium, I'm going to be considering things above this equilibrium. Yeah, you could consider these two for sure if there's a rejection, but there wasn't. Price had broken up. Not the best sign to look at. These would be perfectly valid. Left shoulder here, open close, open close. These would be perfectly valid, but we didn't have ourselves a rejection. I would prioritize more of these above ones, these ones that are coming from up top. Okay, so yeah, left shoulder, open close, traditional SNR as a resistance, right? Now, we also understood, right? This is the other thing we understand. Oh, Avi, but I'm scared of selling in here because what if the storyline turns weekly bullish? You have to understand what would actually make it weekly bullish. So you understand it's weekly bearish now. What needs to happen for it to turn weekly bullish? Well, we need to have a weekly reject weekly. Oh, Avi, is it still a rejection even if the candle doesn't close? No. There's a difference between rejecting and rejection. Rejecting means it may close as a rejection, it may not close as a rejection. It may reject, it may not reject. It's sort of just buying and selling from this point. That's rejecting. It's in the process of deciding. But rejection means it's already happened. It's closed. Right? You ask a girl out and then she's thinking, before she can formulate her answer, you're speculating on whether she's going to reject you or accept the fact that you can go on a date with her, right? No. And then she says, no, I'm sorry, I have a boyfriend. And then you be, okay, so the chapter is closed now. It's a rejection, she had whatever excuse, right? Boom, it's done, it's over. Man, it sounds like I have personal experience with that. Anyway, so you guys understand it though, right? We need a weekly reject weekly. Okay, we need a weekly reject weekly, and then we need a daily breakout of this, correct? Why this? Why not here? Whatever. You could use the open close. Absolutely, you could as to constitute a breakout. But I don't like to use open close as a breakout to confirm storyline, right? I told you guys that's just my rule that I follow. You can do what you want. But for me, this was the last buy before the sell. So I'm going to look at this area to be broken for me to say that, oh, weekly is in a bullish storyline. Until that happens, guess what? Until this breaks, guess what? We are still in a weekly bearish storyline. Okay, cool. So that means what? That means we're going to look at dailies for sells, and if the daily is in line with the weekly, even better. Okay, so let's take a look at this. We have a left shoulder, we have open close and traditional SNR. We're just going to mark these out, guys. We're just going to mark these out, and then we're going to look at the weekly, and we're going to see how we can sort of match the weekly up with it together. Okay, so we have this weekly that is in line with the daily left shoulder, and then we have this apex right here. So let's go back down to the daily and see how we could see. Okay, so we figured out we could correct it from here. And the weekly, right, the weekly sell, correct? Remember that was a weekly resistance? The weekly resistance, or the two weekly resistances, are lining up perfectly with these two. The open close now has, this open close now has an extra reason that we can pay attention to it. Why? What's the extra reason? The fact that there's a weekly in the exact same area. It's just something that adds more confidence, right? This daily left shoulder, and if we look at the weekly, we have a weekly sell buy becomes a support. The support breaks, becomes a resistance. Support becomes resistance, SBR. Is in the same area as the daily, correct? And the weekly sell is also a weekly resistance in the same area as the open close. So these would be two areas that I would pay attention to for sells. So if you let's assume I actually believe I did take a trade over here. I'm not sure. I don't think I did, but let's assume we did. Okay, price comes in here first, right? So let me not lie to you guys. This is where price came in first. What would I have done? Very simple. I would have gone from the daily to the H4. Okay, H4 left shoulder still intact, with this H4 is in the same area as the daily, in the same area as the weekly. We're going to go down to the H1. Okay, and there's a left shoulder right here, a little bit higher though. Maybe we can use a rectangle to separate these things to make it easier to understand. Okay, and then we have a bunch of other stuff, right? We have this SBR here. This is a support that gets broken. We have a higher one. We have this, a bunch of supports, a bunch of resistances, whatever. And this is where you could use something like a trend line. Okay, a trend line would help you have a little bit of a confidence. I don't know whether there's a good trend line here because I didn't use a trend line, but you could use a trend line either on the H1, the H4, whatever. There isn't something that I could pull up now, so I'm not going to lie to you guys and just pull something out of my bum, right? This is what I'm seeing right now. There may not be anything clean for you guys. Okay, no problem. We just don't use the trend line. We look at something like an M5 break of structure, an M1 break of structure, an M3 break of structure, an M15 SMS BMS RTO, which is a shift in market structure followed by a break of market structure and then a return to the origin point. Maybe it wasn't an SMS, maybe it was an SH BMS RTO, which is a stop hunt followed by a break of market structure and then a return to the origin, right? And these are all smart money concept or inner circle trader confirmation strategies that you can use. These are all lower time frame market structure plays that you can use to confirm whether price or when price should start to sell. You know, it's an entry confirmation for a lower time frame. You guys should go ahead and check out Michael J. Huddleston's Inner Circle Trader. But yeah, so these are all things that you could use. So whatever the case may be, price sold from this H4 open close right here, and that would be that. And why? Okay, now here's the next question. So even though I don't think I took this trade, although something tells me I might have, regardless, right? I'm unsure. I'm going to backtest why price didn't just sell off. Why didn't price just sell off? What made price buy back up? So then I realized, oh, hold on a minute. The daily is actually in a bullish storyline in this sell. In this sell over here, price was actually in a daily bullish storyline, right? Where from? Right here, guys. So we had price on the weekly come inside. This is the weekly, correct? Weekly rejected weekly. The daily hasn't broken up yet. It's going to take a long time. But we also do have a daily reject daily, right? So this is where the operation of time frames and anticipation trades, this is when that comes into play. Okay, we have a daily reject daily. H4 makes a breakout right here. So that obviously confirms a daily bullish storyline. Now, before I move on, guys, in case you guys are wondering, Avi, what are you even talking about at this point? I don't understand anything you're saying. You're going through like 5 different things. Do we need to do all of these things just for me to get the 60 pip win? No, guys, I'm trying to run you through every single turn in price. Notice how when I started the video, I talked about how weekly was in a bearish storyline from where. And then I told you guys how weekly actually could have started a weekly bullish storyline here. In fact, it did start a weekly bullish storyline, but then it was stopped by this weekly resistance. And then price sold back down into this weekly support. And how there hasn't been a daily bullish breakout to confirm a weekly bullish storyline from here. So what do? We're just looking at this daily to give us an anticipation trade of an early daily bullish storyline. And then I also told you guys that since we didn't have a weekly reject weekly and a daily bullish breakout, which would confirm a weekly bullish storyline, since we didn't have that, we still are holding on to the previous storyline, which was a weekly bearish. And as long as the weekly is bearish, guess what? We're going to be looking at the dailies for sells and the weeklies for sells. That's it. If you want to actually talk about the breakdown, that's coming soon, guys. But I'm trying to build a story, a narrative to show you guys exactly what I saw as accurately as possible every single day leading up to the trade that I took right here. So the first thing I saw was obviously this, right? Price comes into a very important zone. Daily left shoulder. Weekly SBR. Doesn't matter. It's a weekly resistance. Who cares? SBR, open, close. It's a weekly resistance, right? So price comes into that very important area. And then what did price do? It sold. But why did it buy back up? Because we have a daily bullish storyline. From where? From right here. Daily reject daily. H4 breaks. That confirms a daily bullish storyline. If you look at this, we have price coming up. Daily rejects the daily over here, right? If you were to look at this one here. Daily comes up, daily reject daily, but look at the H4. H4 never breaks any structure. Notice, for all of you guys, a lot of you people who have learned from some of these Instagram mentors, these Instagram Malaysian SNR traders, what do they tell you? Oh, guys, open, close being broken, that's enough to say that it's a break of structure. Look what happened to all of those guys. They would have been completely stopped out of this daily bearish storyline. Yeah, of course, granted, sometimes I have all of my confirmations and it's not like it works out 100% of the time, but it works out more often than their confirmation. Look at this, another opportunity here. H4 comes and breaks the open close, but then it never breaks the actual structure, which is down here, and just completely flies up and stops them out, right? I'm telling you my personal opinion, stop using open closes or breaks stop using the break of an open close to confirm your storyline. It's not strong enough. But if you still want to go ahead and ignore what I say because you won like 3 out of 10 trades using this way, go ahead, guys. I'm not going to stop you. Maybe you figured something out that I haven't. Okay, anyway, let's move on. So we understand roughly how we could get ahead of this trade, right? We roughly understand somewhat. Okay, whatever, I don't know what trend line. Now that I'm seeing this, you just want to find a trend line that sort of suits up, whatever trend line that just matches up with this area over here. Okay, whatever trend line that meets this zone, doesn't matter, that's a confluence already. And then you can add your ICT kill zones, right? 10 p.m, right? That's something that there's some significance with an ICT kill zone. I've lost touch with it, but you get the point. For me personally, I don't care about kill zones, I don't care about trend lines. I just look at lower time frame breaks of structure. Literally, I'm not joking to you guys, I'm not even gatekeeping anything. I literally just look at lower time frame breaks of structure and I enter based on a retest. That's it. Okay, so whether or not I took this trade, no idea, but that's a valid sell to take. And now you guys also know why price didn't hold. It just simply didn't hold. All right, so the next thing that we have, so this place, price has touched it, boom, price skyrockets up the next day, right? From this open close on the day, just shoots up the next day. Where does it shoot up into? It shoots up into our two remaining resistances. Okay, we have the daily open close and we have the daily traditional SNR. Both of these dailies are inside the weekly resistance. The first SNR that's going to be tapped is going to be this one that's right in line with the weekly, which is the open close. So inside here, all we're going to do is refine our zones, right? That's the first thing we do. Before I took this trade, we had to refine our zones. We're going to go to our H4 and we're going to see, okay, what do we have here? All right, let's see. This open close has already been touched. See, the H4 open close, it's already been touched. All right, no problem. Let's go and see. Let me just extend these lines. Just give me a second, right? And of course, over here, we know this is the daily resistance, correct, guys? This is the daily resistance. We know that there's no point in us marking this H4 down here. This is a H4 sell buy, support gets broken, becomes a resistance, H4 resistance. There's no point in us marking this H4 resistance because it's not a refinement of the daily. This is the daily, it's going to be this H4 open close or anything above that. So we know these are the two areas, right? On the H4 we have one, this one's already been tested. Yeah, you could use it again because it's technically inside a daily fresh, but it's always best to go back to the basics and figure out what we have here. So over here we have a very messy left shoulder, but what you could easily do is just refine this daily into the open close and open close right here and the traditional SNR right up top. Okay, so this is the daily, guys. Don't these two black lines are the daily. These two black lines, which are the daily, is also inside a weekly resistance. Correct? Inside, then we're just refining it. Weekly to daily to H4. There was nothing interesting on the H4 to H1. Okay, now we're seeing something fresh on the H1. Of course, we're going to prefer the fresh one, right? We're going to prioritize the fresh one, obviously. Okay, so that's what we mark. Second thing, what's the second thing we have, right? Let's go from top down again. What's the second thing we have was the H4, right, which is just perfectly in line with the daily. And then now we just go and find out what's on the H1. Always find out, guys, what's on the H1. Okay, we have ourselves a fresh H1 open close here. We have something else up top as well, guys, up over here. We could mark it out. We could put a little box over here just for us to pay attention. So if price comes up over here and then there's like an M1, M3, M5, M15 breakout or whatever, okay, that's still going to be a lower time frame confirmation, right? It's just something to mark out. So this is what I did personally. I marked, let me show you exactly what I did, okay? So hold on, what's the time that we have? 18:27. Let me make a notepad real quick. 18:27 is the timestamp for when I actually start the breakdown. When I actually start to break down the trade, this is the timestamp, okay? So what do we have here? We have a weekly bearish storyline and the daily is bullish at the moment. So we're gonna play based on that. Weekly bearish storyline means that we're gonna look for sells from the daily, and if there's a daily in line with the weekly, we're gonna prioritize those. So we're gonna go weekly resistance. We're gonna go to the daily. First one, we've dealt with it already. Let's go to the other two. We have a daily open close. We have a daily traditional resistance. Both of these are inside the weekly resistance. We have the first daily resistance, which is the open close. We're going to refine that. We're going to go to the H4 and see what zones there are that we could mark. Yes, we do have ourselves an open close, even though it's unfresh, it's already been tested. Yeah, it's still something we can pay attention to, but let's go to the H1, which is our lower time frame, which is the lowest time frame that we can go to, and let's find out whether there's anything fresh there. So we go to the H1. Yes, what do you know? We have ourselves a H1 fresh open close, H1 traditional resistance. We're obviously going to favor that. We're going to prioritize that over an unfresh zone. Next, what's the second zone we have? Again, guys, we're just formulating sells here. The second zone we have is a daily resistance. Daily resistance, let's go to the H4 and let's take a look at what we have. We have ourselves an unfresh traditional resistance. Of course, you can still use this. You can still use the top one too because it's technically inside or within the daily resistance. But let's see. Again, we're going to prioritize fresh. All right. But we have ourselves a fresh H4 open close. Let's see if there's anything else on the H1. And on the H1, we have an open close of the H4 that is in line with the H1 traditional resistance. This one is unfresh. That's fresh. We can keep an eye on that. That's unfresh. All of these zones, price can just tap into, guys. Price is random. Price can tap into any one of these. But that's why we use our lower time frame to give us an extra confluence, an extra confirmation, right? Whatever that you're using on the M5, M2, M3, whatever weird time frames you guys want to use, you can go ahead and do that. Like over here, if you observe, we actually had ourselves a shift in market structure. So we have ourselves a low, a high, a higher low. So it's meant to create a higher high, but no, the higher low gets broken. Price returns back to the origin point, right? The origin candle that started the break and sells off. So this would be constituted as a SMS BMS RTO, shift in market structure followed by a shift in market structure followed by a break in market structure, and then a return to the origin. The shift would be up here, the break would be right here. And yeah, pretty much don't focus on the lower time frames, like I said, guys, not yet. Focus on the fact that I took a trade in this area. Why? Okay, I used some other confirmations and I got my trade over here. So yeah, a little bit late, doesn't matter. Got myself almost a 1 to 2, 1.96, and that was the entry. That was the entire trade, right? So you have to understand something, my whole psyche. You have to understand my psychology, right? Weekly was bearish and daily was bullish, correct? Weekly was bearish, daily started bullish from here. Weekly was bearish, daily was bullish. In order for price to continue in a weekly bearish storyline, I'm going to say this one more time. In order for price to continue in a weekly bearish storyline, what do you think needs to happen, guys? Well, we need two things to happen. We need price to come into the daily and start a daily bearish storyline. That's the first thing that needs to happen. The second thing that needs to happen, we need to have a weekly reject weekly and a daily bearish breakout, which just means we need to have a weekly bearish storyline start, a new one, right? That's going to give us more confidence to say that price is going to hold from this area. Because remember, the first thing that I talked about in this video was what? When a storyline starts from a, okay, you have a resistance, and then a storyline starts from that resistance. I'm now confident in saying that that resistance is probably going to hold price. Of course, probably. I don't know 100%. But it's probably going to hold price. If price comes to that resistance and just does something like, for example, weekly reject weekly and just a daily new resistance. Just only a new resistance like this. I'll give you an example, okay? So by the way, guys, you guys already know, right, why I took the trade, so I can delete all of this and I can talk to you guys about something else. So for example, price comes, weekly reject weekly. Wow, I'm so excited. What does it create? Oh man, I wanted it to break this structure down here. See this? Sell buy. This is the last sell buy before price entered the weekly. I want this to break, but it doesn't happen. Price just creates a new resistance on the daily. Is this a weekly bearish storyline? No, it's not. We need the break. The daily needs to break for us to say, weekly reject weekly, daily breakout. Okay, there's a weekly bearish storyline that started from here. Then we can say that. But until that happens, we can't say that, right? So of course, we're going to be looking at sells from the daily, right? This daily over here where price sold from last week. And of course, the top one over here will be perfect, okay? But even if it sells from here, it's not confirming that a weekly bearish storyline has started from here. The only time it confirms it is if we break right here. We break this, okay, yes, we can say weekly bearish storyline started from this area. So that's pretty much it, guys. I do apologize if you're a little bit confused. It's just that when I make these breakdowns, I can very easily finish them within 10 to 15 minutes. I can very easily say, okay, this is the entry, this is the stop loss, mark it up, blah, blah, blah. Okay, the reason why I did it was because weekly was bearish, right? yeah, daily was bullish. Price comes into the weekly, I refined it to the daily, I refined the daily to the H4, the H4 to the H1. Price comes in there and I sold for 60 pips. Boom, done. I can easily say that. Within 5 minutes, I can be done. But I'm trying to tell you guys the entire narrative, the entire context of the trade. From the weekly bearish to where the weekly started a bullish, but then it completely destroyed me. I'm not gonna lie, I took losses here, destroyed me. Then price comes down here. Weekly didn't start yet, but it did do a rejection. But daily started, so that constitutes a daily bullish storyline. But in this entire time, during this entire time, weekly was still in the weekly bearish. So we're gonna pay attention and prioritize these sells, right? That's the entire narrative, right? Weekly was bearish, daily was bullish. So once price comes into the dailies, we only have our regular, we just have 3 of the same confirmations, guys. We either are refining and taking a trade immediately with a sell limit, or we are using some kind of lower time frame confirmation, or we are waiting for a daily reject daily, new H4 comes about, and then we take a sell, or we are looking for daily reject daily and a whole new storyline starts from here, which would be a bit of a late entry, but it would be the safest one. Those are the 3 or 4 main ways of entering. I use the second method, which was price comes into the daily, which is also inside the weekly. We refine the daily to the H4, we refine the H4 to the H1, and then inside the H1, we're just looking for a lower time frame breakout. That's it. That was my way of doing it. You can use a trend line, kill zone, whatever. Candle closure, whatever. Alright, that's it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I'm very low energy. I need to drink water. My throat is super dry. Pause, man. But I need to lubricate it now. Pause, man. God damn.